Okay, so let's get right into the story of how one of the world's greatest athletes was shaped not by luxury, but by real, honest to God hardship. We're going to see how the tough streets of his childhood actually created the unstoppable force we all know today. I mean, this quote, it says it all, right? That's the ambition that defines Cristiano Ronaldo. But to really understand where that fire comes from, we have to go way back. Back to a place where a dream like this seemed completely, totally impossible. So our story kicks off on the Portuguese island of Madeira. And we're not talking about the tourist spots. We're in the working class neighborhood of Santo Antonio. It's here, a world away from those giant, polished stadiums, that the foundations of a legend were first laid down. And this was Ronaldo's first home. You gotta picture this. We're talking about real poverty. He and his three siblings all crammed into a single room. This wasn't a world of comfort or privilege. It was a world of just trying to get by. His dad, Jose Dinas Aveiro, was by all accounts a kind man. He was a gardener, a kit man at a local club, but his battle with alcohol cast a really long shadow over the family. And tragically, he passed away from liver failure when Ronaldo was still just a teenager, before he ever got to see his son's greatest moments. So in this world, on this small, pretty isolated island, becoming a professional footballer, that wasn't seen as a real career. It was a fantasy, a pipe dream. For a young kid like him, surrounded by all this hardship, the football wasn't just a game. It was his only way out. And since there were no nice parks or proper fields to play on, well, the world itself became his training ground. I'm talking about the steep, uneven, narrow streets of his neighborhood. That's where Cristiano Ronaldo first learned how to make a ball do his bidding. Now this is so interesting because you can literally see how every single one of these unwritten rules shaped the player he became. Those small spaces, that's where he developed his insane dribbling and quick passes. The games getting stopped by cars all the time, that wasn't an annoyance. It was agility training. It forced him to stop, start, and change direction in a split second. And that last point, that you had to have character or they eat you up, man, that's where he built the mental toughness we see today. And his first coaches, they saw it right away. He wasn't some polished kid from a fancy football academy. No, he was something different, something raw. He was a product of having to figure things out on his own. And that creativity, it translated directly to how he played on the pitch. He literally carried a football with him everywhere, to school, into the classroom, you name it. And that comment from his teacher, that football was a waste of time, well, it didn't discourage him one bit. Instead, he said years later that he turned those exact words into a motivational weapon. So by the time he's 12 years old, his talent is it's undeniable. And then he gets the chance that changes everything. A move to the mainland to join the famous Sporting Lisbon Academy. This was it. This was his big shot. But this dream, it came at a really steep price. He was just a kid, suddenly all by himself in a huge city. He was incredibly homesick, and the other boys at the academy would make fun of him, bully him for his thick Madeiran accent. They made him feel like a total outsider. The loneliness was just crushing. He would break down and cry every single time he called his mom. But the second he hung up that phone, he would wipe his tears, put his head up, and walk back into the dorms determined that no one would ever see him as weak. It got so bad that the academy almost sent him home 3 different times. And honestly, he thought about quitting himself. So how did he respond to all that hardship? Well, this right here, this is his answer. While he was struggling so much personally, he poured every ounce of that pain onto the pitch. In one single unbelievable season, he played for the under-16s, the under-17s, the under-18s, the B team, and the first team. To this day, he is the only player in Sporting's history to ever do that. So here's the key takeaway, right? This period of intense personal struggle didn't break him. It completely transformed him. It took all that raw emotion and talent from the streets and forged it into the elite winner's mentality he's so famous for today. And this is where you can see that transformation so clearly. Back in Madeira, kids called him the crybaby because he just hated losing that much. He even said that every loss felt like a small loss of life. But in Lisbon, that same passion that used to bring him to tears, it was channeled into an unstoppable drive to be better. He became obsessed, sneaking into the gym late at night for extra workouts until the club literally had to change the locks to keep him out. You know, psychologists have a really fascinating way of describing this whole process. He basically combined what they call the deliberated game of the streets, which is all about creativity and no rules, with the deliberated training of the academy, discipline, structure, and coaching. It's that unique blend of raw street smarts and refined technique that made him such a complete and unpredictable player. And looking back, he says it himself. This time when he was so alone, that's when he really grew up. He learned to be totally self-reliant, not because he wanted to, but because he had to, perfecting everything from ironing his own shirts to just relentlessly training by himself, shooting against a wall for hours, just like he did as a little kid back on Madeira. So when you look at his entire career, you see this really clear pattern. The poverty in Madeira, the loneliness in Lisbon, the teachers who doubted him, none of it was a setback. It was all fuel. Every single obstacle just hardened his resolve and sharpened his focus on that one single goal, to be the best in the world. You know, Ronaldo's story is about so much more than just football. It's a really powerful reminder that sometimes our greatest strengths are forged in our toughest moments. It proves that hardship doesn't have to define you. It can actually create you. And that, well, that leaves us all with something to think about.